Welcome to the summary on distance time graphs. Now, what we're looking at in front of us at the moment then is an example of a distance time graph. And what we need to do in this little revision video is to understand what each of those different features actually shows. First thing to remember though is when you're in the exam and you get one of these graphs in the P3 section, look at the axis labels, because there are two graphs that look very similar that will come up, and you've got to obviously know which one you're talking about. So the x-axis will always be the time, but it's the y-axis that will change. So today, because we're looking at distance time graphs, the y-axis will be labelled distance. So once we've identified our graph, then what we need to do is understand what these different features of our line actually represent. So the first one there then, that initial incline on the diagonal line, tells us that we're moving away from our start at a steady speed. So because it's a nice straight diagonal line, that means it's a steady speed. When we get to that top section where it levels off and goes horizontal, that tells us that our object is stationary, because the time is increasing but the distance is remaining the same. Then finally, that declining line, that tells us we're moving back to the start, because if you look, the distance is decreasing, so that must be like going back to where you began. And again, because it's that nice straight diagonal line, it tells us that it's at a steady speed. The only other thing we really need to remember is that when we're looking at these lines, the gradient tells us how quickly it's going. So if we've got a very steep line, so one that's closer to being a vertical line, that means that it's moving faster than one that's closer to being a horizontal line.